I'm gonna start my vlog here. This isn't even gonna be a vlog. I'm gonna film a whole sit-down video, but I am at my old apartment complex right now. I was dropping off some Arbonne samples with a girl I used to work with, and she lives at my old apartment complex. And it is so crazy. I'm gonna get in my car right now, and it is so crazy. Just even like being here, because like this is the apartment that I lived in before I moved home. This is the apartment complex that I was in when I broke up with Mikkel, my ex-boyfriend. Like, just being here gives me flashbacks to like where I was at in my life at that time, and it's just like so crazy to even think about. Like, I drove right past my old apartment, and I've been so reflective lately, and it just like brought back so many things, like so many feelings, and just reminded me, like, I didn't even realize at the time how unhappy I was, or like what my life was really like. Like, I didn't know any different, and like I look back now and I'm like, holy cow. So yeah, I'm gonna drive out to the apartment complex. And please ignore how freaking dirty my car is, like straight up. I'm gonna drive you guys past my old apartment complex, or through my old apartment, so y'all can see. So like, I lived in this apartment for an entire year, and then this is when I moved home. And so this, can you move, Mr. Truck? This apartment right here was mine, this one. And I always used to park right out here. And then my little yard that I had in this apartment was right here, this yard right here. And you guys know I had 2 pit bulls, and the office was right across the street. And it was so crazy to even think about like how I managed to get away with having, I don't know what's on my car, so please don't judge me. How I managed to get away with living right across the street from the freaking apartment leasing office with my 2 dogs barking all the time, but I did. It's crazy to be over here, because like not old hospital, the old restaurant I used to work at, we're about to drive right past. So like right around this bend, this is the mall over here. My car is so freaking dirty, it's gross. But right over here is the mall. And the restaurant that I used to work at, we're gonna go, is right over here. I'm just like not far from my house at all. I'm probably like 5 minutes from my house. But yeah, so this is the mall, and there's a whole bunch of restaurants over here, but right in this like little area over here by the movie theater is the restaurant that I used to work at. I don't know if you guys can see it. Right by Dillard's, next door. Hi everybody. Okay, so I know I already started this video in the car earlier, but so I'm back. I wanted to sit down today. I filmed a whole vlog a week or so ago, and I just wasn't. My dogs are so loud. As I was trying to say, I didn't like it. I felt like it was really repetitive and really, this is kind of crooked. It felt really repetitive to me. It felt really like basic, and like, I don't know, like I want to be able to vlog. I think that's an art I will have to master at some point in my life. But for right now, I haven't mastered that. So I'm going to film this video instead. I have been reflecting a lot on like what my life looks like now, kind of what my life was like 2 years ago, like how much has changed. And so this is probably going to be like a little bit of a testimony time. Like, I kind of just want to share certain parts of my story so that you guys can feel like you know me a little bit better. Stop snoring. Sorry, Stitch. But anyways, I wanted you guys to be able to feel like you know me a little bit better, know where I came from, how I got to where I am now. And 2 years, like, man, just thinking about how different things are 2 years later is crazy. Like, 2 years makes a world of a difference. And I mean, I don't know. I'm just in awe of how different things are. So I want to share my story. I'm excited because it's therapeutic to me to talk about this stuff. And this is a lot of stuff that like I have not talked about to many people. A lot of people don't know my story. Like, a lot of people even from my church don't know my entire story. And I'm not going to share like all the intimate details of my life and all the intimate details of my testimony or anything like that. But I am going to try to just share. Let's rewind to January of 20, I think it was January of 2018, right? Yeah, so January of 2018, I was in a relationship with my ex-boyfriend. His name was Mikkel. We had been dating for probably 3 or so, 4-ish years. So we were basically together a whole year, but weren't really dating. But we had been together a long time. And we were living together before this. And so we had just moved into a new apartment, the apartment complex that I drove through. And you'll see the clip of that before I start all of this. But that apartment complex, we had just moved into that apartment. We moved into a 2-bedroom unit with a roommate. And things were not great. I was working at Carrabba's at the time. I worked, for those of you that don't know, I worked in food service for, I guess it would have been 2.5 years, maybe more than that, quite honestly. I was at Carrabba's for 1.5 years, I think, before I transferred to Outback. So I was working at Carrabba's. Life was very much just like going through the motions of life. Like, I lived a mediocre life. I wasn't really happy, but at the time I thought that I was. Like, I didn't see anything wrong with my life or like anything. Like, it was definitely just an average life. A lot of the people that I knew that were my age at that time were living very similar lives to me, but I definitely wasn't happy. There are certain things that happened in my relationship that I believe that I had all the signs that my relationship was not going to work and just was in denial. So like, I was continuing to try. I think you hit a point when you just are comfortable in your relationship and you know that you're not happy. Like, you know that that's probably not the person for you. You know, Stitch. You know that that's the situation that you're in is probably not the best for you, but you just continue to live your life the way that you know it because you're comfortable. And like, I'm definitely a creature of habit. So like, that was all I knew. I had spent 4 years with this person. This would have been had we finished out our lease, this would have been my 2nd year living with him. We made it through a whole lease, not to say it wasn't a hot mess, because it was. We made it through a whole lease together in an apartment, just us and the dog. I was definitely not happy in my life. I was not, like, I was further from God at this point in my life than I think I'd ever been. I didn't read my Bible. I didn't pray. I didn't go to church. Didn't listen to worship music. I didn't do anything. Like, it was like I wasn't even a Christian at that point in my life. Like, I had lost all of my faith, purely from lack of discipline. Like, just, it didn't matter enough to me to pursue it, which is crazy to think about now because it's such a huge part of my life. But at that point in time, the church that we had gone to, we had grown up in this church. This was the church that we had met at, was in Cedar Hill, Texas, and I live in Fort Worth, Texas, so it was 45 minutes to get over there. And a lot of times Mikkel would go to church and I would have to work on Sundays, and so it wasn't worth it to me when I had to work at 4 to drive 45 minutes over there and then have to turn around and come back and rush to get ready for work. And just, like, I didn't like that. I'm not the type of person that likes to be out all day. Like, that's not even all day, but I don't like to have to rush around. I like to be able to come home, decompress, and do whatever I feel like doing before I have to go to work. And so I stopped going, just flat out stopped going to church. And he still went, but I don't believe he went for the religious aspects of it or to like pursue his relationship with God. I believe he went because his friends were over there and he wanted to just like do whatever he wanted. But so that's what life was like for me. So January of 2018, we broke up. I broke up with him via text message, which was kind of funny because we literally lived together. But I broke up with him and he ended up moving out of our apartment and moving in with some of his friends. And then at the same time all this was happening, our roommate moved out. And so I was the only person in the apartment. I had no idea what I was going to do, how I was supposed to pay for this apartment by myself. And so I got on one of those freaking sketchy roommate websites and tried to find a new roommate. And this guy ended up messaging me, and he was far older than I was. Like, looking back, I was such an idiot. Like, looking back at the situation I put myself in, I'm like, girl, what were you doing? But looking back on it, I don't know why I made that decision. And the best thing I probably could have done was break my lease and move home, but I didn't do that. And so he moved in this random person, and he lived there for about a month, and then he ended up dipping out and told me he was going to Las Vegas for like the weekend and never came back. So I was stuck in this apartment. All of his stuff was gone. I was like, okay, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do. And at that time, my sister had talked about moving to Texas. She was pregnant, and her and her baby daddy were going to move to Texas. I guess this was her boyfriend at the time, but we refer to him as her baby daddy because whatever. And they were going to move to Texas. They were going to come stay in my apartment. So my parents were paying the other half of my rent. I was paying one half. My parents were paying the other half until my sister came. And then my parents were going to continue to pay the rent for her. She ended up deciding she wasn't going to move in, and I just stayed in this apartment. I ended up moving out of my apartment in August, and our lease was up. It was going to be up, or I guess it was the beginning of September. Our lease was going to be up that next November. So Mikkel would have only had to pay another month of rent, and the lease would have been up. So that August came, and I decided I was just done. The situation was not pretty. I was desperately unhappy. What ended up happening was Mikkel's situation didn't work out with his roommates, and he ended up coming back and living in the apartment with me, which is just never a good idea ever. And like, we could have made it work, but he was eating all my food. He was inconsiderate. It was just, I needed, like, when you go through a breakup, you need that space away from that person to get over it. And we were going through this weird thing where we're like, still kind of friends, kind of doing some stuff, like friends with benefits, God only knows, just making really poor choices, and it was just not a good time. But I was starting to see the way that, like, I was just convenient to him. I truly don't believe that he ever really loved me. I don't believe that he ever really had, like, feelings for me. In the beginning, I think he did, but at this point, I think I was just convenient for him. Like, I took care of things. I was consistent. I worked. Like, he truly was taking advantage of me, and I had no idea, but I had started to see the signs. Like, after he moved back into the apartment, after having moved out, I started to see the signs that, like, you're just taking advantage of me. Like, you just want me to sleep with you and want money, which is so incredibly terrible, but that's really what it was. So I ended up getting so fed up with it. I moved home, and all these things happened with the apartment. Well, fast forward, or I guess really rewind, that July, while all of this other stuff was happening, I started at my church at City Life. God called me to City Life via a Facebook post from my friend Dakota, and I will forever thank her for that, because City Life changed my entire life. But I saw a Facebook post, and I was like, man, that looks cool. I looked it up, and it looked like a really small church. I like small churches. I will never be the type of person that can go to, like, Gateway or, like, one of those mega churches. That's just not where I belong. I wanted community. I wanted to be able to make friends, and I noticed that a lot of the people in the congregation were my own age. We have a variety of people in our congregation, but there is a lot of people that are, like, in their 20s. And so I started just one day. It was actually my dad's birthday. I remember it vividly. I drove downtown, and I sat in my car and almost had a panic attack because I was terrified. I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is not you. I'm very introverted. I'm very quiet. I was coming down from a place of severe isolation, and so I didn't know how to be around people. Like, I didn't know how to talk to people, but I forced myself out of the car after having an almost panic attack, and I walked inside and sat by myself and listened to the sermon, and just, it was like, I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit, and I knew that this was where I was supposed to be. And so I dived in. I made some friends. I started in the Connect group. I got really involved in serving soon after that. And see, this was July. So July I started at City Life. August I moved home. Well, November I met my boyfriend Hunter, and that's when the ball just, like, really kind of shifted. And I was like, I'm not going to date nursing school. Like, I'm going to start nursing school. In this time span, I was applying to Weatherford nursing program and got into Weatherford nursing program, and was going to be starting in that next January. So this would be January of 2019. I was like, I'm not going to date. I don't need anything else. Nursing school is just going to be so hard. We started dating that November, and I was just freaking terrified because I wasn't ready. I can't tell you guys right now that when I started dating Hunter, I was ready for that. But I knew and I had heard from God that that was the person I was going to marry. And the way that we went about starting dating just showed me all the signs that I was like, this is what's supposed to happen. And even though this isn't what I thought was going to happen, I truly believed in that moment that this was what was supposed to happen. Lilo. Hey, you're snoring, ma'am. Wake up. This is just my life. It's snoring dogs in the background. So let's see. So that was January. So me and Hunter celebrated our 1.5 years this past weekend, and so it's May right now. And it just caused me to reflect a lot. Like, I was feeling so reflective on like how far I've come, and I give all the glory to God for that, because I truly could not, like, I would not have made it this far. Like, I would not be where I am. I would not have been blessed with all these opportunities and all these things if not for him. Starting at City Life changed my life because I had opened the door to let God back into my life. And I was nowhere near where I am now, but I guess you could say I was open to it. I wanted to pursue my faith again. Like, I wanted to be I wanted to be a part of a church. Like, I wanted God back in my life. Like, I wanted to read my Bible. I wanted to know more about him. Like, I wanted to learn more about Jesus. I wanted to develop that relationship. And by doing that, by opening that door and letting God back into my life, I truly believe that's the reason I got into nursing school. He brought me to Hunter. He's brought me to all of my friends from church, which is just like gave me the community that I desperately needed. And in this time, I've learned so much about, like, pursuing a relationship with God is not easy. Like, you have to put the work into it. Like, God doesn't just like hand you like an intimate relationship. Like, you have to pursue him. And I've been like trying to be in the word more. I've been like, listening to sermons and trying to dive deep. And me and Hunter are reading through the Bible this year, and I'm working on my prayer life. Like, I didn't even really know how to pray, like how to really pray. Not just be like, oh, thanks for this, can I have this? Like, that's what my prayer life was like. And I've learned just so much about being a Christian and like being, I guess, on a passionate pursuit of Christ. That's kind of my motto for this year. My word for 2020 is passion. And like, I want to be in a passionate pursuit of Christ. Like, I want to have Christ be like here in my life and everything else just fall right underneath it, because I've seen what he can do. Like, I have seen what God can do in my life. Like, it's amazing what happens when you surrender. Like, right now I'm in a time of surrender and like giving your life over and allowing him to move and to do what he has had planned for you all this time. And I feel that now. Like, in looking back on the past 2 years, I can see blessing after blessing. And not to say my life has been like a walk in the park in the past 2 years, because it hasn't. But like, I see him moving in my life. And it's just caused me to just like, just think back and to be so grateful. Like, I truly am grateful for the life that I live today. Like, it's not easy. It has its ups and its downs. There are so many things that I would change. But before, like, a lot of like my high school life and into my early 20s, I lived in the future. Like, I lived for the day I was going to be in nursing school. I still kind of do. I live for the day when I'm going to be done with nursing school and in my career, and me and Hunter will be married, possibly talking about having children. I live for those days, but I'm not stuck in the future. Like, I see the now and I can appreciate everything that I have. Like, I can appreciate my life. I appreciate my relationships. I appreciate my church more than anything in this world. Like, I appreciate my job and that God brought me to Texas Health Resources, and that like he has led me to the unit that I believe I'm going to work on when I graduate. And like, I'm not trying to be super churchy right now. But like, I'm a faithful person. Like, I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he is my savior. And then like, I want to be open about the things that he's doing in my life, because there are people in the world that don't know that. And there are people in the world that need to hear it. And also, like, 2 years ago, I never would have thought my life would look like this. Like, I was lost, I was depressed. I never would have pictured this life for me. And now looking back, I'm so thankful. Like, I'm so thankful for it. And it's a powerful statement to say, like, look what God has done for me in 2 years. And if you ever feel discouraged, or if you feel lost, or if you feel like I did 2 years ago, know that, like, God can really change your life in 2 years. It doesn't even take 2 years. He can change your life in an entire day if you give him the opportunity. And by, I guess, speaking a little bit about my faith and speaking a little bit about my testimony and, like, how far I've come in 2 years in my journey, like, I hope it speaks to somebody, because I look back on the world and, like, everything that's happening right now, and I think a lot of people are filled with anxiety, this coronavirus stuff, and not being able to work, and not, you know, it's really impacting people's lives. But I just want you guys to know that, like, where you are now is not where you're going to be 2 years from now. Like, one, you have the potential to change your life, but also if you open the door to God, he will literally rock your world. And I am living proof of that. I don't know, like, I feel like I have an encouragement, like, I can be an encouragement, because I know that there are people in this world that have been through things that I've been through, feel the same way that I feel at times. And I don't know, part of this is just being transparent. This channel is kind of my personal journal that I just choose to share with the world. And I don't know, I just want to be open. These are just things that were on my mind, that have been on my mind the past week or so. I find this to be more relatable and maybe entertaining than my vlog, so I'm gonna post it. And up and coming soon is gonna be your introduction to Hunter, and we're gonna talk a little bit about our relationships. I'm really excited to film that video for you guys too. But that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. What was I gonna say? I'm gonna leave a link to my Instagram in the description box, because I'm really active on my stories on Instagram. So if you see this video and you're like, oh, I want to learn more about her, I want to see more about her life, then you can follow me on Instagram and you can see all my stories. But that's all I have.